How's it, Stashes? My name is Dr. Jacob Seidnote, and you're watching the Historian's Stash. Now, for the last couple of weeks, I have just sat back and listened and watched various commentaries and news reports surrounding our country and its relations with the rest of the world. There's been a lot of white noise, and I figured, well, let me add to that noise, but hopefully in an informative way, which can add some information of value. Now, there are a lot of channels out there, as well as news reports, that do add great value, and I rely on them to also inform my own opinion. My own opinion. That is exactly what these episodes are all about. It's about giving my own opinion, and it's not necessarily the opinion that you might like, but it is my opinion, and I also call upon you to share your opinion in the comments below. Also, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Historian Stash. I would really like your support. For those of you who have already joined, thank you so much. You guys are helping this channel grow, and I really do appreciate it. Also, if you'd like to buy me a coffee, the link is down below. I really like my coffee, and I would love if you can support me in that way. Now, getting to our stories, well, it was Human Rights Weekend. Now, Human Rights Day in South Africa is a big deal. The government always plays it up, and I see that our Vice President, Paul Mashatile, went to go and talk at Kariga, formerly Uitenhage, which is also quite confusing to me because it's a river close to where I live, so it is quite confusing. But anyway, he went to go speak at Kariga and delivered the official government Human Rights Day address. Now, most of you will know that the Human Rights Day is based on the Sharpeville massacre, which took place on the 21st of March 1960. So it's exactly 65 years ago since it happened. What happened exactly? Well, there were 5,000 protesters who descended upon the Sharpeville police station in the Transvaal, Gauteng today, demonstrating about past laws which had been passed by the apartheid regime, and these past laws aimed at regulating the movement of black African people. Really abhorrent stuff. But then the police panicked when the crowd started getting nearer, and then they opened fire on the protesting group, killing at least 91 people and injuring hundreds others. Now, following the massacre, there was widespread condemnation from all over the world, and the spotlight was placed quite squarely on the apartheid regime and its conducting of internal affairs. Also, all the liberation groups were subsequently banned, including the ANC and the PAC, who organized the Sharpeville demonstration. Now, that's another thing that the ANC kind of implies were actually their demonstration, but that's what they like to do, is to hijack things, whether it be demonstrations or state coffers. But yes, it was actually a PAC demonstration, not the ANC, even though the ANC does punt it as being one of the cornerstones of the liberation struggle. And it's also taught at schools. But what's not taught at schools is what happened 2 months prior. Now, on the 24th of January 1960, there was a police raid that was conducted in Cato Manor, just outside of Durban. And this police raid was conducted to seize illicit liquor. Now, most of the people were unhappy with the fact that the police were conducting a raid on their liquor. So an angry mob was formed and then descended upon those cops and attacked them, and then brutally murdered them. 9 cops were killed. Now, the police were stunned following the events at Cato Manor, were pretty edgy when it came to large crowds that were demonstrating around them. And then when the 21st of March came and these large groups of people were protesting outside the police station, and this crowd also outnumbered the police, the instincts of the police then took over, and the tragic events of Sharpeville unfolded. But here's the unpopular view. If you were to put yourself in the shoes of the policeman on that day, on the 21st of March 1960, and you saw a large crowd, an angry crowd, protesting outside, knowing full well that 2 months prior your colleagues were brutally murdered by approximately the same size crowd and were also showing the same kind of behavior, how would you react? Now, of course, very unpopular question to ask, and it's also an inconvenient question to ask for the ANC and the PAC, because they don't like these questions being asked. They want a straightforward narrative, and what happens is good versus evil. When a thing like Cato Manor comes in, then it blurs that narrative a lot. And so the government doesn't really like to talk about Cato Manor. And for good reason. Because one might argue that police might have had just cause in opening fire. Once again, unpopular opinion, but if you look at it from the perspective of the policeman, and if you look at it with the events that did happen, even though the ANC try and whitewash it, it did happen, then the police may have had just cause in opening fire. Remember, the mob at Cato Manor initially also didn't have any weapons on them. So if you were one of the policemen that were in the police station at Sharpeville, then would you like to stick around to wait until people start pulling out weapons? Again, I'm not saying that the actions of the police were completely justified, but the fact that Cato Manor exists as an event, that adds a whole new dimension to this literally black and white narrative of Sharpeville and Human Rights Day. Now on to our next story is the arrival of our esteemed ex-ambassador to the United States, Ebrahim Rasool. Now he was welcomed back by a supposed large crowd of people who are hailing him as a hero and a martyr of some sort. Now, large crowd is relative. I think I probably counted about 100 people there when I looked at the video. So yeah, I say large crowd very liberally. But yes, he was welcomed back today after his failed diplomatic mission to the United States. Being declared persona non grata by your host country is the worst possible thing to happen to an ambassador, other than the host declaring war upon your country for something that you did or said. So he really riled up the hornet's nest. And let me put it like this also, to put it even simpler. If you were to go to a house for a dinner party, and you then went on to insult your host and call them a white supremacist or member of the KKK and preserver of white supremacy and racism, I don't know about you, but I would be very surprised if your host then invites you for some sherry after dessert. And that is exactly what happened. The American government then decided in an unprecedented move that they were going to proclaim him as persona non grata. Now the controversy around whether they followed the right processes, that is going to carry on for a few months, but still the fact remains, if you insult your host, then you should expect something like this to happen. And I do suspect that Ebrahim Rasool did want something like this to happen. Just like the PAC probably, I suspect, also wanted the reaction of the police at Sharpeville to be very similar to how they reacted against the crowd on the 21st of March 1960. To supposedly sacrifice yourself for the greater good, and whether that greater good has got anything to do with Hamas and Iran, well, that remains to be seen. But this is what I suspect the whole thing was about. Is this bigger political game to show that South Africa is being bullied by the United States, and South Africa is this big player in world politics. Well, that remains to be seen as well. So yeah, Ebrahim Rasool is back now, and we wait and see what happens with our future diplomatic relations with the Americans, and who we're going to send as replacement. In my opinion, this is all really unnecessary, and we should never have played with the lion's tail, because now we are finding out that the lion's tail is connected to the jaws, and we'll soon find out what the bite is like. So that's it from me. Again, if you like what you see, please subscribe, drop a comment below. Do you agree with my opinion? Do you not? Who do you think the South African government will send to Washington to try and clean up the mess of our hero, Ebrahim Rasool? Also, please don't forget to buy me a coffee, because hey, I'm a caffeine addict. Until next time, stay stashy and bye.